Hi guys, this is the next project we are going to be working on. It is working with autumn leaves, it's working with warm colors on the leaves, and then it's working with some cool colors in the background. So this project can be modified depending on what materials that you have at home. And you can create this in a few different ways, and I'm going to show you those ways. All right, so let's get to work. So for this project, we are going to be using paper. We're going to be using oil pastels. If you don't have oil pastels at home, that's fine. Crayons work just as well. Now the whole thing with the oils is it's going to resist the watercolors. So crayons work in very much the same way. As I said, we'll be using watercolor as well. And also attached to the project, I have a handout of different images of leaves. So what you're going to do first is you are going to take your paper. Okay. You can either draw the leaves as you see them, trying to draw as best as you can, or you can also, if you print up the handouts, you can place this directly underneath your paper, and you see how you can see through the paper? I can trace my leaves. What I want to do is I want to make sure that I have a few different leaves on the paper. Now I'm doing this quick, but I want you to take your time. We want some nice leaves. Make sure to also draw the stems of the leaves and then the veins of the leaves. If you're unable to print these up, you can also go outside. You can look for some leaves that have fallen onto the ground, and you can put them right on top of the paper and you can trace them. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead. All right, so here we go. I traced two of the leaves, but I went in and I drew in two more different style of leaves. What I did was I looked at one of the handouts that I had put in Google Classroom, but as I said, you can also take a look at any leaves that are outside. You can also trace any of those leaves that are outside. So looking at the image, we're going to see a bunch of different colors in autumn leaves. We have a lot of yellows, we have oranges, we have reds, we have browns, and then we have some greens and some tans. So I've put those colors to the side. Like I said, these are my oil pastels. If you have crayons, that works too. Some colors that we don't see in leaves in autumn are things like our bright greens. We don't see purples or blues at all. We don't see pinks or any of these colors. So I left those off to the side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trace some of my leaves using certain colors. So I'm going to trace, say I want, you know what? I want this leaf right here. I want this to be yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the outlines. I'm going to trace my pencil lines. Including my lines inside of the leaf, the veins and the stem. I'm going to use my either crayon or my oil pastel. I'm just going to shade very lightly. I'm not going to shade the entire thing. I'm not putting a lot of value. I'm keeping it kind of light. You can see there's a lot of the white paper showing through. That's what I want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another little color to it. I'm going to put some little dabs of green in there. Once again, I'm not fully coloring. I'm just letting the oil pastel or the crayon just kind of graze across the paper. That's it. All right, I'm going to do the same thing for this next leaf. All right, I'm going to outline this in, let's see, this red color, this nice bright red. I'm making sure to follow my pencil lines, staying on my outline. I'm going over my stem lines and the inside detailed lines, the veins. There you go. I'm going to do the same things before. I'm just going to add a little bit of color. I'm not fully shading this in. Just adding little bits of color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of brown. In some areas. Like I said, not a lot. I'm not filling in the space. I'm not completely coloring it in. I want to see the white paper show through because that's going to be important later. All right, I'm going to do the same thing for my other leaves. And there we go. So I've outlined my leaves. I've gone over my lines for the details, the veins and the stems. As you can see, as I get closer, I didn't fully fill in my leaves. All I wanted to do was cover them with a little bit of color, but I want to see the color. I want to see the white paper through my colorings. Because what's going to happen is we're going to be painting over that in a little while. All right, so here we have these nice warm colors of our autumn leaves. Now you might be wondering, well, what are we going to do with the background? That's where some of our cooler colors come in, our blues and our purples. What we want to do with these colors, blue and purples, we don't want to add pinks, we don't want to add a bright green. We want to have a nice contrast of these warm against the cool. So with these, you're going to draw lines, maybe some little swirl lines. It's a little harder to do while I'm holding the camera. All right, maybe some wavy lines. I'm just working with some lines. So right now we are working with lines. We're working with color lines. Right now my blue lines. I'm going to add some light blue. You can add these in a few different places. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing with my purple. So I have this nice cool color in the background. There we go. All right, that is all with our oil pastels or your crayons. Next step, watercolor. Now, I should also say, if you do not have watercolors, this can be it. This could be your project. We worked then with having nice warm colors for the leaves and nice cool colors for the background. If you wanted to fully fill in the background with the blues and the purples, you can do that. If you wanted to fill these in completely, you could do that. If you wanted to end the project right here, you can do that as well. I'd love to see what you have. If you do have any of these other materials, like the watercolors, these are extra optional steps that you can take. So what I have here is I have my watercolors, I have some water, and I have a paintbrush. So what I'm doing, I'm dipping the paintbrush in the water. I'm dipping my wet paintbrush in the red. I'm sorry. I'm going to add some more water to it. So the more watered down it is, the lighter it's going to be. So what I'm doing is I'm filling in that red leaf with the watercolors. The darker the red I want, the less water I'm going to add. Now what's happening is the watercolor is affecting the paper, but what's happening is it's not being affected by the oil pastel. The oil pastel rejects the water. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to fill in the rest of this leaf. I can add a little brown too if I wanted to. But I'm just filling in the leaf with the color that I outlined it with. Once we have our warm colors painted within our leaves, now comes time to paint the cool colors in the background. So I'm taking my water. I'm going to add water to my blue. I'm using the tray in order to make the color either a little bit lighter, a little bit darker as I need it. So that's my mixing tray. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint. I hope I'm in the frame. I'm just going to paint the background. You can add water to it to spread it out, to lighten the values a little bit more. Because with watercolors, the more water you add, the lighter the value is. You can do this in a few different spots. Same thing, I can add water to lighten it up. Alright, I'm going to add, this is my purple. It's harder to tell, but that is a purple. And I'm going to add some purple in the background. Right, because they're watercolors, when I add the water to it, it blends them very nicely one into the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the background with these blues and these purples. Alright, I'm trying to be careful not to get the paint inside of the leaves because the leaves are nice warm colors. And what happens is it's contrasting. It's very different. It's opposite to that of the cool colors in the background. Almost looks like our leaves we're laying in a puddle or we're floating in the wind. Alright, I'm going to do this for the rest of the picture.